When you picture Mecca before Islam, you might imagine a pretty simple, maybe even chaotic tribal society. But what if I told you it was actually run by an incredibly sophisticated administrative system, almost like a modern city-state? Okay, let's dive right in and uncover the surprisingly complex government of ancient Mecca. So the big question is, who was actually in charge? Who was organizing this bustling hub of trade and pilgrimage? Well, it wasn't some single king or absolute ruler. It was a really complex web of responsibilities, all centered around one dominant and very powerful tribe. And the architect of this entire system, the man who put it all in motion, was this one visionary leader, Qusay ibn Kilab. Honestly, his story is the key to understanding how Mecca became the absolute power center of Arabia. So Qusay's big claim to fame, the thing everyone remembered, was liberating Mecca from a rival tribe, the Quza'a. But he didn't stop there. He then went and united all the scattered clans of his own tribe, the Quraysh, and basically established them as the undisputed masters of the city. He gave them a home, and with it, the incredible honor and prestige that came from controlling Arabia's most sacred site. But here's the thing, he wasn't just a warrior. He was a brilliant city builder. He dug new wells, a huge deal in the desert, to provide water for the thousands of pilgrims. He organized all the services around the Kaaba and even got the ball rolling on its reconstruction. These moves weren't just about public works. They cemented his authority and laid the foundation for his family's lasting legacy. Now, you might be wondering, where does that name Quraysh even come from? Well, historians have a couple of theories. One idea is that it was a title given to Qusay himself, and then his descendants just became known as the Qurayshi. The other theory traces it way back, like 6 generations earlier, to an ancestor named Fiqh ibn Malik. Either way, that name became totally synonymous with the leadership of Makkah. So let's move on from the man himself and see how his vision blew up into a fully functioning state. Because Qusay didn't just conquer Makkah, he organized it piece by piece. And this quote just nails it. It perfectly illustrates the scale of his ambition. This wasn't just about taking care of a religious site. No, he was building a political entity, a real government with defined roles and responsibilities. He was literally building a state from the ground up. What's really cool is that the system grew pretty organically. Qusay started it off with 6 key departments to manage the city's affairs. Then, after he was gone, his grandsons didn't descend into some messy power struggle. Instead, they actually sat down and, by mutual agreement, expanded the system to 10 departments. They spread the power out even more effectively. So, the crucial point here is this. This whole administrative setup was incredibly stable. It governed Mecca for generations, which really matters because this political landscape, with all its established powers, its rivalries, its structure, is the exact stage where the early history of Islam is about to unfold. All right, now for the really fascinating part. Let's break down exactly what these departments were and which of the powerful families ran them. This right here is the blueprint of Meccan power. The entire administration of Mecca, the whole shebang, was built on 10 key departments, and each one was held by a major clan of the Quraysh. Okay, now this is where it all just clicks into place. What's so amazing is how this division of power connects directly to some of the most famous names in all of history. Look at this. The Banu Hashim, that's the Prophet Muhammad's clan, they handled really prestigious jobs like providing water to pilgrims and taking care of the Kaaba itself. Then you have the powerful Banu Umayyah, holding military command. Justice and fines, that was managed by Banu Taym, Abu Bakr's clan. Foreign relations and diplomacy fell to Banu Adi, Umar's clan. And the war treasury and the elite cavalry, well, that was commanded by Banu Makhzum, the clan of the legendary general Khalid ibn Walid. It's incredible. Let's zero in for a second on the 2 most powerful clans here, Hashim and Umayyah. You can see this really clear division of influence. The Banu Hashim controlled what you might call soft power, the spheres of religious and social prestige. The Banu Umayyah, on the other hand, held the reins of hard power, the military and the political leadership. This dynamic, this tension between them, would go on to shape history for centuries. And don't think it stopped there. This was just the top tier. The other 5 departments, which covered all the other essential civic duties, were spread out among the other prominent clans. This was smart because it made sure that the entire Quraysh tribe had a real stake in keeping Mecca stable and prosperous. So why does all this pre-Islamic political stuff matter so much? Because it wasn't just a list of jobs on a chart. It was basically a centuries-long training ground, creating a legacy of leadership that would profoundly shape the entire world to come. Seriously, just think about it for a second. These were not random assignments. For generations, the Banu Hashim were diplomats. For generations, the Banu Taym were judges. The Banu Adi were ambassadors, and the Banu Makhzum were military strategists. This system created entire families with deeply ingrained, specialized expertise, basically preparing them for the massive roles they would later play on a global stage. So what you end up with is not some chaotic desert outpost, but a well-oiled machine. It was a stable, functional city-state with clear lines of authority, totally capable of managing a major international center of both pilgrimage and trade. And all of this leaves us with one final, fascinating question to think about. This deeply ingrained system of leadership, of diplomacy, of military command, this was the world into which Islam was born. So how did this pre-existing political structure, with all of its specialized skills, its powerful alliances, and its bitter rivalries, end up influencing the monumental events that were about to change the world forever?